Thank you for coming. I'm Bob Whitmer, Chairman Emeritus of the University's Board of Trustees. And on behalf of Ed Hagem, our current chair, and all of the other members of the board, I welcome you to the 47th Annual Garden Party here. I also, there are just too many to enumerate, but we have several of our current and former members of the Board of Trustees, and I would just like you to join me in applauding their efforts that have made this university such a terrific place. A few weeks ago, at one of our graduations at Simon School, the featured speaker gave 4 suggestions to the graduates. One of them was that they should go out and find a job in a company that has a soul. I thought, hey, that's pretty good. You know, I've heard of culture and culture of a corporation, but that's got both positive and negative aspects to it. But I like soul. So I thought a little bit about that and thought that, of course, the person responsible for whether you call it a culture or soul is the chief executive officer. And what aspects do I consider to be important with this university of ours? And I'm not going to keep you here all night, but just 2 that I wanted to mention. One is compassion and caring for our people. I mean, we're a large organization, 8th largest employer in the state, and we unfortunately lose people who have accidents or who pass away. And when it happens to a student, it's particularly tragic. Well, I have been with Joel just this year when he was the speaker at a ceremony memorializing a student, and he makes sure that the full resources of the university are available for the surviving family and friends. And of course, most of us here will recall the way that Joel essentially orchestrated some events last fall that enabled many of us to express our admiration and love for Doug Lowry, both before and after he passed away. No one who is an active employee of the university who passes away is gone unremarked and unnoticed. Indeed, the flag at the Eastman Quadrangle is flown at half-mast for everyone, regardless of what station and responsibilities they hold within this university of ours. The other component that I'd just like to mention is one of celebration. Now, we're going to hear a lot, I suspect, of achievements that we all should celebrate. But keep in mind that there is a whole staff within the university that supports these achievements. When Joel first came here, he initiated an annual award ceremony. And each year he will personally hand out to staff of the university whose achievements have helped us promote our goals, either individually or as part of a team. And also another award for people who have spent most of their working lives with us and have contributed mightily to the university. And the third one, a community service award that is given to someone who goes outside the university, works with one of the volunteer organizations within our community, and is recognized by Joel for that, and indeed the university makes a contribution in his or her name to that volunteer organization. Joel funds that with his own contributions to the university. So when we hear and appreciate all of these achievements, I just hope you will keep in mind that there is a whole staff behind these, and that it is so important to have a culture, a soul that supports that, and that comes from the top. So this week I was going to say, let me introduce the soul singer, but I don't. Joel is one of the most accomplished people I know, but in listing accomplishments, I'm not sure singing is going to be that high on the list. So join me in welcoming the Soul Meister, my good friend, and indeed the friend of, I'm sure, most of the people who are attending here, the president of our university, Joel Seligman.
I was wondering where you were going. Never have I been introduced so soulfully as tonight. I have to say, this is the 9th year Bob Whitmer has introduced me at the garden party, and it is an event that's almost precious to me. It's our opportunity to directly speak to the community. I hope everyone appreciates the remarkable role Bob has played not only at the university, but in Rochester. He is an individual of such caring values, such sensitivity, such decency. Had you been affiliated with another religion, you might have been one of the great rabbis of all times, or yet another, one of the great father confessors. He is someone everyone trusts. Let's have a big round of applause for a wonderful leader of Rochester. For my wife, Dolores, and me, the garden party speech is also very, very special. 2 years ago, I announced our engagement at this event. And I said then that and I really should have said, we are the luckiest people on earth. We've been surprised by joy, and the joy never ceases. When I come back here, it's like celebrating an anniversary. And I'm going to do something that I'll probably pay a big price later tonight. May I have a big round of applause for my wife, Dolores Conway. And I just want to return to one point that Bob made. We are a university that works together. We mutually support each other. I'd love to do something I've never done at this event and ask every employee of the university who's here at any level to stand and be recognized. We're in this together, we're a team, and I think we can't appreciate the remarkable dedication, hard work, talents of the University of Rochester family enough. Please, all those at the U of R, if you could stand and be recognized. Yeah. Now I have a good news speech today. Our momentum continues. We're a university on the move. This is the strongest year in the history of fundraising or advancement at the university. We've raised nearly $120 million through this point in June, over 30% ahead of last year. Our Meliora Challenge capital campaign has reached nearly $1.1 billion, over 91% of our $1.2 billion goals. We've increased our George Eastman Circle membership to 2,980 members, and I always remember wistfully the discussions with Jim Thompson about whether or not we'd ever get to 250. Regional campaigns successfully have been launched in San Francisco, Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York, and San Diego, with a campaign launch scheduled for Los Angeles this September. Our One Rochester Faculty Staff campaign, which went public just last fall, already has generated support from 41% of our faculty and staff. The support from our trustees and friends has been tremendous. On April 1st, I had the privilege of announcing a $17 million gift from the Wegman Family Charitable Foundation, $10 million of which provides the lead gift for our Institute for Data Science. $7 million supports the Golisano Children's Hospital. We will name the new data science facility Wegman Hall in honor of the Wegman family. And the support for the Golisano Children's Hospital brings our total for that construction project to $45 million, within $15 million of the campaign goal for what is the largest construction project in our history. When we crossed the $1 billion threshold last November, we joined a pretty exclusive club of 29 private universities which have succeeded in raising $1 billion or more. What does this mean for our university? First, we've made a significant change in our culture. We now rank among the top 40 universities and colleges in the Grateful Grad Index. We've created 281 new scholarship and fellowship endowments to support students such as Carlos Gonzalez Roman, a rising sophomore who has already had a world of experience. Since the campaign began, we've secured commitments for 82 endowed professorships and deanships, exceeding our goal of 80. For example, Medical Center CEO Brad Burke and his family have contributed a $1.5 million gift to create a distinguished professorship in honor of the university's cardiovascular care research and educational efforts. On May 14th, we celebrated the installation of cardiologist Art Moss as the inaugural Bradford C. Burke, MD, PhD, Distinguished Professor. Art is tremendous. Art has a half-century of experience as a clinician and researcher investigating heart disease. At the ceremony, Art told a wonderful story, charming the audience with his recollection of Monkey Baker, whom Art, as a young physician, helped with recovery from one of the earliest unmanned space flights. Alas, Monkey Abel died of complications soon after the flight. This caused absolute terror for Art's commanding officer, who was concerned that the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals would be so alarmed by the sad plight of Abel that they would excoriate the effort. Art came to the rescue, successfully proposing to the SPCA that it should give Monkey Baker an award for heroism, a medal. Unexpectedly, Life magazine took the celebration much further with its legendary cover photo of monkeys Abel and Baker. The support of alumni and friends has been particularly consequential in supporting our facilities and renovation projects. During our campaign, we have completed or begun planning for $810 million of facilities projects. Each of our major construction projects is on time and on budget. College Town will open for business in October of this year with a 2-level, 20,000 square foot Barnes and Noble, and will ultimately include a Hilton Garden Inn with full restaurant and conference service, several restaurants, and here I have to confess, every time I read this list, I do not worry about University of Rochester students, faculty, and staff having enough fun. We will have the Flight Wine Bar, the Beer Market, the Corner Bakery, Saxby's Coffee, Jimmy John's, Insomnia Cookies, and Moe's, as well as Constantino's Market, Bean Cruise and Travel, and Breathe Yoga. A new 1,900 parking space garage, and Paprocki Plaza, named in honor of Senior Vice President for Administration of Finance, Ron Paprocki, whose leadership was absolutely decisive in creating College Town. To celebrate College Town, we will publish Our Work is But Begun, a new history of the University of Rochester by Janice Petersea. The book will trace the progress of the university from a small undergraduate program to a robust research university by the conclusion of Tom Jackson's presidency in 2005. And for those of you interested, you can buy copies at Barnes & Noble when it opens in October. And Barnes & Noble, I might add, is interested in your buying them. A few months after College Town opens, the Golisano Children's Hospital will be open for business in 2015. With the new $145 million facility, approximately 240,000 square feet of space, this will provide our region's children and their families the best possible environment for healing. In May, the Medical Center announced the launch of Wilmot Cancer Institute, a new organizational structure for all of the Medical Center's programs in cancer, including its growing network of satellite locations. The Wilmot Cancer Institute simultaneously launched a $30 million fundraising campaign to support expanded research efforts. Across the Genesee, we will open Brooks Crossing in August, which will add housing for 170 of our students. We've begun work on significant renovation and expansion of our athletic facilities, thanks to a lead gift from alumnus Brian Prince, made in honor of his parents. Initial construction of the Brian F. Prince Athletic Complex will begin this summer and encompass Fover Stadium and the baseball field, the Lyman Outdoor Tennis Center, and the Northfield practice area, with more to come. University trustee Ron Retner has established the Ronald Retner Campus Improvement Fund to help revitalize the Eastman Quad's historic academic buildings and spaces. Ron recently made the lead gift, which helped create the Retner Hall for Media Arts and Innovation. Beginning this summer, the new Retner Improvement Fund will initiate a multi-floor renovation of Morey Hall. In February, Governor Cuomo formally announced full funding for the $90 million I-390 Kendrick Road interchange project. All phases of this project will be completed by 2017. This project, among other things, unlocks the university's potential for significant expansion of our core campuses, particularly the Medical Center campus, and will ease traffic congestion after the opening of College Town and the Golisano Children's Hospital. By 2015, the Medical Center plans to construct a 3-story, 92,000 square foot building along Brighton's East River Road near the I-390 Kendrick Road interchange to relocate outpatient imaging and some pediatric outpatient care, and get this, with absolutely fabulous parking. You're going to love it. Throughout the university, our academic progress continues. Applications for next year's undergraduate program in Arts, Science, and Engineering have reached a record of 16,342, with projected 2-score SATs on track to rise also to a record 1,378, up nearly 80 points from 2005. To put this in different terms, our 2-score SATs have increased from the 87th to the 93rd percentile during that period. Simultaneously, there has been a substantial increase in enrollment of underrepresented minorities and an increase in enrollment of first-year international students who now hail from 75 separate countries. This has also been a year of notable university events. Former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates delivered this year's keynote address last October. I thought particularly notably observing that he anticipated publishing a book a few months later and wasn't sure he'd be invited to many parties in Washington after it came out. I've rarely heard a more accurate forecast than that one. Former NAACP President Benjamin Jealous joined us in January to deliver the Martin Luther King Jr. commemorative address, drawing on the inspiration of Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Shirley Chisholm, Frederick Douglass, and Cesar Chavez. at the same time making me feel really old, because Benjamin Jealous privately told me that my younger brother was his hero. On February 22nd, the university awarded an honorary degree to Itzhak Perlman, today the world's most celebrated violinist, who performed with the Eastman Philharmonic Orchestra in Kodak Hall. On March 19th, the university also awarded an honorary degree to world-renowned flutist Sir James Goldway, the man with the golden flute, who performed on NPR's From the Top, recorded live at Kodak Hall. For many outside of Rochester, and especially those in Denver, the only inspiring moment of this year's Super Bowl was Eastman graduate Renee Fleming singing the national anthem. In May, the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra gave a memorable performance of the opera Marymount at the Spring for Music Festival at Carnegie Hall, an opera composed by former director of the Eastman School, Howard Hanson. And then, of course, there was the stirring announcement that the naked mole rat was named Vertebrate of the Year by Science magazine, in part because of the path-breaking research of U of R biologists Vera Gorbanova and Andrei Solunov, who have studied why naked mole rats live as long as 30 years and never contract cancer. Recently, Vera received a 5-year, $9.5 million federal grant to head up a project studying why the naked mole rat has such longevity and develop applications that may delay human aging. In a different field, Professor Ronald Roge achieved considerable attention for a study published in the Journal of Consulting and Clinical Psychology, which concluded that watching romantic movies was just as effective in preventing divorce in the first 3 years of marriage as to establish premarital treatment. Now, I explained to a couple of people I work with that the secret, if you're a film producer, to studying romantic scenes is which actor or actress more successfully cheats towards the camera. And this is, I think, a memorable photo in part because neither tried. Professors Karl Kieberts and Zhijing Shang were named fellows of the prestigious American Association for the Advancement of Science. Karl's primary clinical and research interests are neurodegenerative disorders such as Parkinson's and Huntington's diseases. Zhijing is the leader of our internationally renowned Institute of Optics. Professor David Williams, one of the world's experts on human vision, was selected in 2014 to become a member of the National Academy of Sciences. In April, Dick Aslan, the William R. Kennan Professor of Brain and Cognitive Sciences, was inducted into the National Academy of Sciences. 2 UR scientists were recipients of Optical Society Awards. Ching Tang was recognized for the discovery of efficient thin-film organic light-emitting diodes, and Janik P. Rowland was lauded for visionary contributions and leadership in optical design and engineering. Lynn McQuat, who I believe is with us in this room, the J. Lowell Orbison Endowed Professor in the School of Medicine and Dentistry, received the RBA Women's Council's Athena Award in recognition of professional excellence in RNA research and her advocacy for women in the sciences. Lynn is the first research scientist to be recognized for this extraordinarily prestigious award. Lynn's acceptance speech memorably concluded by paraphrasing Willie Nelson, and I quote, "Mama, do let your daughters grow up to be scientists." End quote. 5 Eastman graduates received Grammy Awards: Bob Ludwig, Maria Schneider, Martha Culver, Eric Dudley, and Kent Knoppenberger, who received the Grammy Foundation's inaugural Music Educator Award. Bob Ludwig won a Grammy in each of 4 categories for which he was nominated, and Maria Schneider received the Best Contemporary Classical Composition Grammy for her song cycle, Winter Morning Walks. Steve Goldstein, the CEO of Strong Memorial Hospital and Highland Hospital, was named by Becker's Hospital Review to a list of the top 40 smartest people in healthcare, and deserves it. Marianne Mavernick, Vice Provost, and Andrew H. and Janet Dayton Neely, Dean of the River Campus Libraries, was selected for the 2014 Lifetime Achievement Award from the Ontario College and University Library Association, the oldest and largest library association in Canada. The Laboratory for Laser Energetics successfully concluded its 25,000th experiment to create and study extreme states of matter. This experiment, among other things, will help explore how to make fusion work in the laboratory and what is happening in the interior of giant planets such as Jupiter and Saturn. On April 3rd, we celebrated Laser Lab Director Bob McCrory's 38 years of accomplishment by installing him in a university professorship. And we simultaneously installed Professor Ricardo Betti, an internationally recognized leader in fusion energy research, in the Robert L. McCrory Professorship, an endowment, I will underline, which was created by an anonymous and different donor. This spring, 5 Rochester students and 1 alumni were awarded 2014-2015 Fulbright Awards. And Rochester students and alumni have received 17 National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowships. First-year student Danielle New earned honorable mention, All-America honors on the 3-meter board at the NCAA Division III Championships. She's the first woman diving All-American at the university. On the same day in April, first-year students David Strandberg and Elena Wexler made baseball and softball history by pitching no-hitters. 1 no-hitter in a day is not bad. 2 in 2 different forms of baseball, extraordinary. The magazine Downbeat, sometimes described as the Bible of jazz, recognized the Eastman Chamber Jazz Ensemble under director Jeff Campbell for outstanding undergraduate college performance at its 37th annual Student Awards competition, and also recognized Eastman musician Michael Conrad for the Best Original Composition. Soprano Julia Bullock, who received her Bachelor of Music degree at the Eastman School in 2009, was named the winner of the Walter W. Naumburg Foundation's International Vocal Competition following the finals in New York City. The Naumburg International Competition has been described by the New York Times as, quote, the most prestigious of them all. Lee Bollinger, president of Columbia University, delivered the keynote address at the university's 2014 Diversity Conference. Lee was the defendant in Grutter versus Bollinger, the United States Supreme Court case that authorized colleges and universities to take race into account in admissions decisions, recognizing the importance of diversity in higher education. Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Doris Kearns Goodwin, author of Team of Rivals, will be the keynote speaker for Meliora Weekend this October. Her latest book, The Bully Pulpit, focuses on the 1912 election, particularly the relationship between former President Teddy Roosevelt and then incumbent William Howard Taft. Now this year, we're experiencing a large number of senior leadership transitions. And this is after 6 or 7 years with virtually none. In September 2013, Chief Advancement Officer Jim Thompson began a medical leave, and subsequently in February, Jim and I agreed he would become special counsel to the president to focus on strategic advancement issues. During the 8 years Jim served as Chief Advancement Officer, he achieved virtually everything that we set out to accomplish in advancement, including nearing completion of our $1.2 billion Meliora Challenge campaign, strengthening relations with alumni parents and friends. He built a great advancement program and team. Working with Board Development Committee Chair Larry Block, I'm leading the search for a new Chief Advancement Officer. In September, Simon School Dean Mark Zupan announced that after 10 years as Dean of our business school, he would pass the baton to a new Dean on July 1 of this year. Mark has had some notable achievements as Dean. During his deanship, the Simon School added 9 new tenure-eligible faculty, and supportive alumni, friends, faculty, and staff contributed nearly $67 million of the school's $85 million goal as part of the university's Meliora Challenge campaign. This support has allowed the Simon School to add 10 new endowed professorships, nearly doubling the total in the school. In May, I announced the appointment of Andrew Ainsley as the new dean of the Simon School. Andrew has had a stellar career as Senior Associate Dean of UCLA's Anderson School of Management, where he's widely credited with having re-engineered the school's MBA program. Andrew is scheduled to begin next week. On September 23rd, as Bob Whitmer foreshadowed, the Eastman School of Music's dean, Doug Lowry, resigned as dean because of deteriorating health. Doug led the Eastman School during the renovation and expansion of Eastman Theater. He unified the Eastman community. He hired outstanding faculty. He was, as an associate memorably stated, a polymath with a heart, who personified absolute integrity and creativity in advancing the musical arts. Doug was the rarest of academic administrators, a great dean who was also a great man. On October 2nd, we lost a great friend when Doug Lowry died. In May, I announced the selection of Jamal Rossi as the Joan and Martin Messinger Dean of the Eastman School of Music. Jamal was the most talented of a rich pool of candidates because of an extraordinary record of accomplishment. He served as Executive Associate Dean from 2007 until September 2013, and we benefited from his leadership on 3 separate occasions as interim or acting dean. In November of 2013, Grant Holcomb, the director of the Memorial Art Gallery, announced he would retire later this year. During Grant's illustrious 29-year career, the gallery enhanced its permanent collections, held high-profile exhibitions presenting such artists as Maxfield Parrish, Edgar Degas, Georgia O'Keeffe, and Jacob Lawrence, added Vandenbrühl Pavilion, linking the original 1913 gallery building to Cutler Union, and recently completed the Centennial Sculpture Park, which opened the public spaces of the MAG to all of us. Grant helped popularize the gallery's exceptional educational programs, working with the university's medical center, for example, in developing such programs as the Art of Observation, and supported collaborations with, among many others, Garfagan Dance, George Eastman House, the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra, the Eastman School of Music, and Writers and Book. MAG Board President Jim Durfee is leading a search for Grant's successor. Joanna Olmsted has also informed us that after an extraordinarily successful deanship of the School of Arts and Sciences, she will step down at the end of this academic year. Joanna is a dean of uncommon good judgment, integrity, generosity, deep respect for arts, sciences, engineering, and the university, and a joy with whom to work. I and many others will dearly miss her. I also will miss her almost infectious smile. We continue to make progress in faculty, student, and staff diversity. Between 2006 and 2013, the percentage of our underrepresented minority faculty has grown from 2.6% to 3.9%, with the number of underrepresented faculty doubling from 37 to 75. During the same period, women on our faculty have increased from 28.6% to 33%, an increase in actual numbers from 411 to 636. Our aggregate underrepresented minority staff has increased from 5.1% to 6.6%. Several of our recent hires are particularly notable, such as School of Nursing professor LaRon Nelson, who received his PhD from our university in 2009. LaRon has served as Associate Dean for Global and Community Affairs at the University of South Florida College of Nursing since 2012 and was the principal investigator on research grants focusing on AIDS prevention and behavioral health issues. He will be the Associate Director of International Research in our Center for AIDS Research. Many of the greatest social challenges in our inner cities today involve race and poverty. In early February, I hosted a presidential symposium that focused on revitalizing K-12 education in the city of Rochester, in which Mayor Lovely Warren presented the keynote speech. The symposium highlighted programs that work, such as the Hillside Work Scholarship Connection that has more than doubled the graduation rates of the Rochester City School District for the students it addresses. We are also deeply proud at this university of our Upward Bound programs administered by our Kern Center, which have supported nearly 300 low-income area high school students in an effort to increase the number of Rochester City School District students who apply and gain admission to college. Upward Bound has a 96% high school graduation rate. In opening the symposium, I stretched, and I quote, K-12 education is one of the great social challenges of the 21st century. While many universities have scaled back their support of schools of education, the University of Rochester is determined to invest in K-12 education as part of our commitment to the greater Rochester community, and most of all, its children. East High School is the largest high school in Rochester and is on the verge of being closed by the state because of inadequate performance. We were asked a few months ago by the Rochester City School Board if we would assume the role of an educational partnership organization, the equivalent to the superintendent for East High School under a special statute. For several weeks, a number of our Warner School of Education faculty, led by Dean Raffaella Barassi and Steve Eubing, have developed an educational partnership organization plan that was submitted to the school board for approval only yesterday. This plan, among other things, anticipates doubling East High School graduation rates from the current 42% to 84% over a 7-year period, assuming full implementation of the plan. The plan would revitalize a public high school, doing so with unionized employees fully protecting their financial benefits. It is still uncertain whether we will be able to proceed. We also must achieve concord on memoranda of agreement with the 4 relevant unions at East High School. If these approvals occur, we will submit the Educational Partnership Organization Agreement to the State Education Department by July 1. If the state approves the plan, we will prepare a full operational plan by December, which will also require additional approvals. The operational plan will be developed collaboratively with East High School teachers, parents, students, indeed, all relevant stakeholders. This is obviously a complicated process, but one that can dramatically improve the lives of students at East High School and potentially create a model of how challenged high schools can be revitalized. There will also be significant academic advantages to the students and faculty at the university's Warner School. No one should have any delusions that this will be easy. This will not work unless there is flexibility and cooperation among all key decision makers involved. I have been encouraged by the spirit of cooperation and mutual determination to date. We need all parties to make a commitment in these emergency circumstances to be sufficiently flexible to save a high school that's on the ropes. But the jury is still out whether this will occur. Now, shifting gears, In October, the University Board of Trustees adopted a new set of university medical center and school strategic plans. We called the university strategic plan Aiming Higher and characterized its objectives and goals in these terms. Be one of the nation's leading research universities. Emphasize educational quality. Improve healthcare. Service to the community. Complete the Meliora Challenge Capital Campaign. And have sustainable financial models. Our first university objective is to be one of this nation's leading research universities. This objective is well aligned with a critical national priority. Economists have estimated that at least 50% of economic growth in the United States during the last half of the 20th century was derived from technological innovation, much of which resulted from federally funded sponsored research agencies, such as the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health, the Department of Energy, and the Department of Defense. As a nation, we increasingly faced an innovation deficit. According to the National Science Board, the U.S. share of global research and development has declined from 37% to 30% since 2001. During the same period, the economies of East and Southeast Asia and Southeast Asia and South Asia, including China, India, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan, have achieved an increase in their combined share from 25% to 34%. The pace of growth over the past 10 years in China has been exceptionally high at about 18% annually, propelling it to 14.5% of the global total in 2011, up from just 2% in 2000. Now, there's nothing wrong with a commitment to research by any nation, but there is a national threat in the faster rate of growth abroad than in the United States, with its implications for our technological innovation and faculty and student retention and recruitment. Simply put, we seek to be the most innovative nation in the world and know that this will require the most talented faculty and students. The deterioration in sponsored research has been profound at the national level. When $1995 are normalized across time, research support, for example, for the National Institutes of Health increased from $11 billion to $21 billion between 1995 and 2003, but since then has declined to $16 billion. The University of Rochester is a member of the American Association of Universities, the nation's leading organization of research universities, through which I have supported efforts by the AAU and allied organizations to address the innovation deficit. Recently, the AAU and 13 business, higher education, and scientific organizations jointly urged Congress to close the innovation deficit by increasing federal investments in sponsored research. Among other steps, they've produced a short video for audiences that I'd like to now share with you.
Americans are worried about our federal budget deficit. But people who worry about our country's economic health also need to understand that we're creating another kind of deficit in the U.S. that impacts every community and industry in the country, the innovation deficit. America's economy has been built on innovation and new ideas that create jobs and healthy communities. After World War II, our federal government helped the U.S. grow the world's strongest economy with strategic investments in education, science, and technology that made our country the world's innovation leader. Research funded by the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health, NASA, and the Departments of Defense, Energy, Agriculture, and Commerce has led to life-saving vaccines, lasers, MRI, touchscreens, GPS, and even the internet. In fact, more than half our country's economic growth in recent decades has been thanks to innovation, much of which has resulted from federally funded scientific research. Innovation has made the United States the leading economic power in the world. It's why new industries have their roots here in the U.S., and why the smartest people from all over the world want to be at our universities. It's the reason our men and women in uniform are equipped with the world's most advanced technology. But now, that's changing. Scientists and business leaders agree that a growing innovation deficit means the U.S. could lose its lead in science and technology, and once that lead is lost, it could be difficult to regain. So what is the innovation deficit? It's the widening gap between the actual level of federal government funding for research and education and what the investment needs to be if the United States is to remain the world's innovation leader. Let's look at it another way. Every country has great minds, and when we invest in those great minds by supporting education, science, and innovation, it leads to a strong economy. But if we cut back our investment while other countries grow theirs, we fall behind. Americans' investments in research and higher education are now flat or declining, while others, such as China, Singapore, Korea, and the EU, are dramatically increasing their funding in those areas. Federal budget cuts to science and education programs over the past several years, compounded by sequestration, helped create this deficit. If we don't address the innovation deficit, it will be impossible to grow our economy, overcome our budget deficit, and create the jobs of the future as the rest of the world makes great strides. And the stakes are high. What country will become the magnet for the world's best and brightest scientists and engineers? What country will create the next information technology industry or biotechnology revolution? Who will make the next big discoveries in medical treatments, devices, and life-saving drugs? Will the United States continue to be the innovation leader, or will we be just another competitor? If the United States is to remain the world's innovation leader, we must close the innovation deficit by growing and sustaining federal investments in scientific research and education. We need students and teachers who are challenged to think critically and ask tough questions. We need laboratories that have the resources to break new ground. We need great universities that attract and grow great thinkers. Together, we can make it happen. Please tell your member of Congress to close the innovation deficit by supporting strong funding for research and education. America's future prosperity and national security depend on it. For more information, visit www.innovationdeficit.org or follow the conversation on Twitter with the hashtag InnovationDeficit.
Make no mistake about it, this directly affects the University of Rochester. Over the past 5 years, we've received nearly $2 billion in research funding, and on a per-faculty basis, ranked in 2012 among the top 17 universities in the country in sponsored research per faculty member. But so far this year, research expenditures have decreased from $348 million to $321 million. Sponsored research makes a difference. Since the work of University of Research Medical School professors Bonet, Reichman, and Rose helped create the first vaccine against any cancer, the commercialization of Gardasil has led to a reported 56% reduction in the human papillomavirus virus in teenage young women, a dramatic step in reducing cervical cancer. A path-breaking study with the University of Rochester led author Mark Mapstone to show that the blood test can predict Alzheimer's disease with 90% accuracy. The study found that seniors with low levels of 10 particular fats or lipids were more likely to develop Alzheimer's or other forms of cognitive dementia. These new biomarkers potentially will give doctors tools to diagnose and potentially treat or cure Alzheimer's. Doctors estimate that 1 in 8 of our citizens will test positive for Alzheimer's or other forms of cognitive dementia throughout their lifetimes. Few areas of research could be more vital in neuroscience today. In late March, the National Institutes of Health awarded $23 million for a multi-site study led by University of Rochester Medical Center neurologist Kevin Biglin to study whether a drug currently used to treat high blood pressure can slow the progression of Parkinson's disease, the neurodegenerative illness that is second only to Alzheimer's. Researchers in our medical center, including Ankar Chandra, Associate Professor of Surgery and Biomedical Engineering, now are using 3D printing to model aneurysms. The use of patient-specific 3D models represents a genuine breakthrough in disease modeling. Researchers will no longer invariably have to use animals or humans for experiments. Data science is the university's top priority for the 2013-2018 strategic plans that were developed and adopted by our board last October. This research field has emerged as one of the defining disciplines in the 21st century. According to IBM, every day we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data, so much that 90% of data in the world today was created in the last 2 years alone. The U of R intends to be among the world's leading institutions in this rapidly accelerating discipline, focusing on health threat early warning systems, reducing the costs of healthcare and cardiac modeling, among other specified areas of research. Our university has committed $100 million to expand our data science initiative. We have to date spent approximately $50 million on this project, thanks in part to New York State's support for our Health Sciences Center for Computational Innovation, which has helped create more than 650 faculty, student, and research staff and 100 principal investigators to use our high-performance computing, and generated over $300 million in the past 3 years in sponsored research. In the next 5 years, we intend to hire 20 new faculty in computational science and applied fields, including biostatistics, psychiatry, physics, and political science. We will also continue to acquire cutting-edge technology and build a new $25 million facility to house our Institute for Data Science. New York recently named this institute a Center of Excellence and provided in next year's budget close to $900,000 support, with this expectation that this will continue in annual support. Shifting gears once more, for the university as a whole, our finances remain strong as we continue our efforts at cost containment. The Medical Center, for example, has begun an $83 million cost containment program over the next 3 years. Our undergraduate tuition increase of 3.5% is the lowest tuition increase in 13 years. Our aggregate endowment spending rate of 5.8% on our 5-year rolling average equals 5.1% of current market values, the lowest in decades, and will strengthen endowment values in the future. Our net assets increased by nearly $250 million over a year ago, and for the first time we crossed the $3 billion threshold for total net assets. Our long-term investment pool, which is largely comprised of our endowment, crossed the $2 billion threshold in late February, the highest total that the pool has ever achieved. We are succeeding in strengthening our finances by running a tight ship. This is necessary in an academic world of uncertainty with respect to future healthcare support, pressures on tuition increases, and declines in inflation-adjusted dollars for federal-sponsored research, but we are succeeding. Now, next year, I'm going to focus on 5 major university priorities. First, senior leadership searches, including searches now occurring for a new chief advancement officer and a new director of this Memorial Art Gallery. Second, work on revised strategic plans for Eastman and Simon and on implementation of the Medical Center strategic plan. Third, in October, open College Town. Fourth, substantially complete construction of the new Golisano Children's Hospital. And fifth, support implementation of the university research plan with emphasis on the Institute for Data Science building and the new Science and Engineering Quad. Our university is strong, growing, and an increasingly complex institution that is inexorably faithful to our motto, Meliora, or ever better. The university's distinctive position among America's great research universities is well earned. I have the utmost confidence that the dynamic talents of our faculty, students, and staff will continue to help ensure a vibrant and healthy future for the university. But today I want to close with a special thank you to those in the Rochester community who've made such a difference to the progress of our university. I am deeply grateful for what you mean to us. Or as Ella Fitzgerald sings it better than I ever could, you're the top. Thank you.